The first primitive one is the Kingdom Monera, and the second is the Kingdom Protista. So what are the main organisms that come under the Kingdom Protista? So we'll see about that in detail. So Kingdom Protista, it includes the single-celled eukaryotes. So what do you mean by the single-cell eukaryotes? They are unicellular but eukaryotes. So the main difference between the Monera and Protista are they are also unicellular, but here they are eukaryotes. But Monera, it includes all the prokaryotes. So that is the main difference between the Kingdom Monera and Protista. And another one important factor about the Kingdom Protista is there is no clear boundary of classifying the organisms as per Kingdom Protista. There is no well-defined boundary. There's no well-defined boundary. So what does it mean? It is some scientists classify some organisms under Protista. The same organisms be classified under plants by some other scientists. So there is no clear categorization of which organism should be included under Protista and which organism should be placed under plants, because they show some of the common characteristic properties. So there is a confusion among the scientists about the Kingdom Protista. So this is actually sometimes called the garbage can. That is, they'll put all the organisms which they are not able to categorize into the particular category into Kingdom Protista. So it includes all type of unicellular eukaryotic organisms. So mostly they are unicellular eukaryotes. So that is the main feature of Kingdom Protista. So eukaryotes, in the sense, they have a well-defined nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. So they differ from Monera in that they have a well-defined nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. And also another feature that differs from Monera is that Monera includes mainly bacteria. So here it includes the organisms which have cilia or flagella. So what is the purpose of this cilia and flagella? For locomotion. So they are motile. Not all the organisms are motile, but some have flagella or cilia for locomotion. And Protista are primarily aquatic organisms. That is, they exist in water. They are primarily aquatic, and it is a link with plants, animals, and fungi. So the initial primitive one is Monera, and then Protista, and then there comes fungi, plants, and animals. So they act as a link between the Monera and other higher level of organisms like fungi, plants, and animals. It is a link. And they reproduce asexually and also sexually. And sexual reproduction is by cell fusion and formation of zygote. So there occurs a formation of zygote here. But there mostly asexual mode of reproduction is present in the case of Monera. So these are the main features that differ from the Kingdom Monera. So this is a little advanced mode than the Kingdom Monera. The Kingdom Monera include the most primitive forms. That is, they are only prokaryotes. So no well-defined nucleus or membrane-bound organelles, but they differ from Monera in that they have a well-defined nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles. And some of the organisms are flagella or cilia, and they act as a link between the lower organisms and the higher organisms. So these are the main differences. So then we'll see about the different types that comes under the Protista. So what are the different types that comes under? Protista is not actually same as Protoctista. That is, some scientists, they include some other organisms and they named it as Protoctista. There is a mild variation between Protista and Protoctista. So Protista actually it includes the Chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds, and protozoans. So it depends on the scientist who did the classification. Actually, this Kingdom Protista itself is there is different scientists included different organisms under Protista. Some scientists, they gave some organisms that can be included as Protista. But the other scientists, they said some other organisms that can also be included under Protista. So there is a difference in opinion among the scientists regarding which organisms have to be classified under Protista. So Protoctista, there's a slight variation, that is inclusion of some other organisms also under that category. So if you take the Protista, it includes Chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, then euglenoids, then slime molds and protozoans. So here also it is these three, the Chrysophytes, dinoflagellates and euglenoids, they are called the plant-like protists. It is some of the properties that look like plants. But the slime molds, from the name itself, you know, what do you mean by mold? Mold is a fungus. That is, generally we will say the word mold for some fungal infection or something. For example, if you see one orange and if you keep it outside for some few days, what will happen? There will be a formation of the mold growth. So that is the fungal growth. So mold is a term generally we used for the fungus. So this slime mold, actually it comes under the group Protista. So here they have some fungal-like properties. So they are like fungal-like protist. So this protist includes the plant-like protist, then fungal-like protist, and this have more properties of animal. So they are animal-like protists. So this includes all types of organisms. So some scientists, they'll say whatever is included under plant-like protists can also be included under plants. So here the protozoa, that animal-like protist can be included under animals also. So there is a difference of opinion between the scientists. So there is no clear, well-defined boundary that the particular organism should exist in the protists. Okay, so is it clear? Then Chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds, and protozoans. And also if you take algae, for example, if you take algae. So what are the features of algae? Algae, in the sense, we can say that they are the chlorophyll containing organisms. So if you take algae, we classify this algae in 3 kingdoms. For example, Monera and also Protista and also in plants. So if you take algae, the algae come in 3 different kingdoms. In Monera, the day we saw that cyanobacteria, which is also called the blue-green algae. So that blue-green algae comes under the kingdom Monera. But here some golden algae, that is this mix, we'll see in detail under Chrysophytes. And the other unicellular phytoplanktonic forms, that is the primitive plants, phytoplanktons, that all comes under the kingdom Protistas and some type of algae. But if you take under the plant kingdom, there is a separate division as algae. So in that you'll see red algae and brown algae and green algae. So all these algae, they come under the plants. So this algae, they show the structural variation because they range from the primitive form to the complex multicellular forms also, but mostly they are marine. So this algae, they are included, and so if you say algae, it is not under a particular kingdom. It depends upon the type of algae because they vary from unicellular to the multicellular forms, and the blue-green algae comes under kingdom Monera, and this golden algae and some other forms that come under Protista, and red algae, brown algae, and green algae, they come under the plant kingdom. So there is a huge variation among these classification, particularly in the kingdom Protista. So we'll see in detail about the Chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds, and protozoans which come under the kingdom Protista.